On October 10th, 2007, Valve Software began distributing a video game known as Portal. If you are unfamiliar, Portal is a first-person 3D puzzle-solving game that tasks you with manipulating portals and other objects to complete a sequence of testing chambers. Currently, there are two mainline games in the Portal series, both with very apparent differences in terms of visual and gameplay experience. Although many aspects of the two have disturbing undertones, it is overshadowed heavily by the comedic nature of the two main antagonists, GLoWhNo and Wheatley. Within Portal 2, there is a scene where you are forced down an elevator shaft alongside GLoWhNo, plummeting for what seems like an eternity. Here you will be left completely isolated, left to traverse the depths below Aperture Science. This area is, in my opinion, the only location inside both games that makes an effort to be scary. Portal very rarely experiments with horror, with its most notable example of doing so being that of Doug Ratman, who resides within the walls of Aperture Science, leaving behind nearly incomprehensible drawings. Let's imagine you could experience true horror within Portal, tying into the story of the game while not being completely out of the realm of possibility. Luckily for us, there is a 3-part series of maps on the Steam Workshop that allows us to experience just that. Let me introduce to you the Office Prank. You are Haley Peterson, a recently acquired intern at Aperture Laboratories, working within the confines of a cubicle. Showing up for what appears to be just another night of hard work, you find the facility occupied by dozens of mannequins. To make matters worse, it appears the building in which you reside is completely void of life. Reluctantly, you decide to investigate, and to your relief, one of your coworkers carelessly left their computer turned on, showing an email. This email is from one Miles Shaw, detailing plans to set up mannequins intended to scare you. Now that you have the upper hand, learning the truth of the matter, you curiously decide to investigate further to see how far they took this joke. Though you soon reach an impasse. A bridge previously accessible has been destroyed. You decide to check a nearby security system for answers, and your decision is reinforced when you hear footsteps in the distance. Now is your chance to catch the perpetrator in the act, and are startled when you find a mannequin sitting in a chair facing the camera. This camera just so happens to be in a room on the other side of the broken bridge, and there is no way you're going to risk getting hurt out of curiosity. But to your surprise, the bridge is completely repaired. Puzzled, you chalk it up to being some sort of brain fog and continue on. The mannequin has been moved, and reaching the end of the hallway, you find the exit is broken, leaving only a sliver for you to get through. Collecting a portal gun, you make your way to the door, only to see a shadowy figure dart across the hallway behind you. Your blood runs cold, but once again, it must be in your head, so you carry on. Strangely, you once again come across a computer left on an email. It is from your coworker, Maxwell Martins, who claims responsibility for the previously encountered mannequin. Luckily, you might have found the answer you've been looking for, as the account signed in is that of an individual named Samuel. Realizing this must have been recent, you continue moving forward, only to find a dark figure aimlessly shining a flashlight on the other side of a chain-link fence before disappearing. And strangely, they did not react to your presence. Cautiously moving forward, just as you are about to enter another hallway, the doors both in front of you and behind you are slammed shut, with a mannequin blocking the exit from the inside. Of course, you are shaken up, but you remember you're being messed with. But strangely, you can't help but notice the mannequin's pose. It almost looks like it walked there on its own, stopping as soon as you saw it. You then decide to escape through a nearby ventilation system opening, which proves effective. Making your way through this new area, not only do you hear a disturbing laugh coming from the darkness, but you see a pair of glowing eyes that disappear shortly after seeing it. Panicked, you quickly turn on the lights, only to find that no one is there. You try to play it off as your imagination, but are beginning to wonder if something more sinister is happening. To make matters worse, you come across something deeply disturbing, a long blood trail leading to a charred, floating corpse in the water. You now understand just how serious this has become. Throughout this entire journey, you have naively disregarded several warning signs, and now you have willingly walked directly into the lion's den. Having no choice but to continue forward, you find even more mannequins, with one falling over. You then discover another email, this one from Alyssa William. In this email, she is questioning the main perpetrator of the prank, Miles Shaw, asking why she was forced to be involved in the prank, mentioning the constant placement of mannequins outside of her office, as well as bringing up their use of fake blood, which should explain what you saw earlier, if not for the floating corpse. Just as you are about to continue moving, you find the previously fallen mannequin ominously staring at you. Startled, you make your way out of there as quickly as possible, only to find what might just be the worst news you could have heard. In the form of another email replying to Alyssa, Miles states, "We didn't put any fake blood down." Reading this, you realize you need to escape. You reach a long hallway, notice mannequins standing at the end, and before you can react, the lights slowly begin to shut off, and finally, the game ends, making you wonder what happened to Haley. This time around, you are Jerry Ryans, another employee of Aperture Science. Luckily for you, you were sick with the flu on the day of the prank. It is now the week after, and you have attended work. Strangely though, once you arrive, you notice the office and surrounding rooms are empty. Deciding to get to work, you sit at your desk only to find an email from a coworker named Tony Gray. Tony informs you of the events that had taken place the day of your absence, mentioning the prank that had gone wrong under unknown circumstances. He mentions that everyone who was involved in the prank had gone missing, and since you don't have too much on your plate, he requests you to take a look around the place in the hopes that you will have better luck finding them. Of course, there is no context provided as to what this prank pertained to and anything to watch out for when searching. Of course, knowing only the bare minimum, there would be no reason to decline. As you are on your way, you receive a second email from Tony, informing you that if you notice any mannequins scattered around the facility, to pay them no mind, as he assumes it was remnants of the prank. Tony also lets you know that he will be staying over late as well, to do damage control and cover a few shifts. As you continue moving forward, you decide to bring a portal gun, which would prove to make getting around a lot easier. Eventually, you finally come across the mannequins Tony mentioned in the email, and although you had proper warning, nothing could have truly prepared you for just how creepy they are to stumble upon. To make matters worse, Tony sends you a third email, this one being a bit more unnerving than the previous ones. He mentions people leaving shortly after lunch, assuming it was a meeting or a party he wasn't invited to. He then brings up not being able to find signs of people, except for strange open doors that he presumes was your doing. Tony then decides that since he has finished all of his paperwork, he will make his way towards you, following the opened doors. Of course, this was not you, so the only reasonable explanation is that one of the other coworkers had to have been responsible. Brushing this off, you continue on your way, making great use of the portal gun. Eventually, you receive another email, except when you go to take a look, your screen is a distorted mess showing a website's source code. Important details to note about this screen are do not trust them, possible interference from unknown entity, and entity type Aperture Science Semi-Intelligence Semi-Conducting Test Mannequin. Unfortunately, I will not be showing this screen here just to be safe, as I cannot reliably determine whether or not the background image is that of an actual corpse. Shortly after this, you receive yet another email from Tony. This time, Tony is very obviously disturbed, as he informs you that while following the path of open doors, he has gotten himself seemingly lost in the factory. Being taken down several hallways and rooms, the most foreboding part about this message is his detailing of having seen something move. Eventually, you will also find something equally disturbing. As soon as you open this specific door, you will see a mannequin gliding across the floor, disappearing into thin air. Shortly thereafter, a set of 2 doors will begin opening, revealing another mannequin at the end of a room, which will also disappear as the lights go out. After reaching the difficult-to-access room, you will find copious amounts of blood splattered on the floor. You will then eventually receive another email from Tony, who appears panicked. He details witnessing a mannequin walking down a hallway, which he claims is impossible unless they are in possession of the android's cores. He then decides to continue investigating, and so do you. A few minutes later, Tony will send you one final email, appearing as mashed keys, implying something terrible happened, only to find out that something terrible did in fact happen, as you see a bloody mannequin in front of a computer that slowly turns towards you, appearing to be wearing Tony's face. Now you are Ted Ross, an employee of Aperture Science. Today you will be helping out your coworker, Miles Shaw, in pulling a prank on a new intern named Haley Peterson. The day plays out just like any other. Eventually, you receive an email from Miles bringing up a perfect use for some defective mannequins at the facility. He then requests you head down to Factory Sector 88B to retrieve them. You oblige and begin making your way down. Eventually, you reach 88B, and once again receive an email from Miles. In this email, he details the plan. You will acquire some of the defective mannequins and set them up around the offices while he sets some up elsewhere. This is almost too good to pass up. You can only imagine the look on her face when she shows up to work surrounded by nothing but lifeless mannequins. As you place the mannequins around the office, even you are slightly unsettled by them. This will be the perfect prank. I mean, being aware of the mannequins is creepy enough, but not knowing would be terrifying. You then finish placements, and Miles sends you another email, letting you know he disabled security cameras before this took place, so nobody will be caught. You are then informed that you are free to go, and that he will be locking up the place pretty soon, as there is no night shift this week. Before you leave, however, since it has been a long day, you decide to relax in the break room for a little, and maybe even have a coffee. Once reaching the break room, you take a seat in the room's armchair and begin dozing off, eventually falling asleep. You are then awoken, finding that you have moved from the comfort of the break room. And to make matters worse, the building has been locked up and the lights are turned off, leaving you mostly in darkness. Recovering from your nap, you decide to head back to the break room and finally grab a coffee while you figure out a plan. As you're making your way, slightly unsettled by the mannequins, you are startled when you see some cans go flying off a nearby crate. Maybe it was just some airflow, you think, and continue to the break room. On the way, you just can't help but notice the mannequins placed in such a way, coincidentally blocking you from entering the break room. Hoping there is a chance Miles is still here, you decide to check the security office and view the cameras, only to witness a mannequin walking down the same hallway you were just in. Your eyes have to be deceiving you. That nap must be messing with your brain or something, as a mannequin walking on its own is completely impossible. Reluctantly, you decide to check it out. Now, you know for a fact that there was a mannequin right in front of this door, and now it's gone. Of course, there is a reasonable explanation. Miles must have given the mannequins some sort of walking capabilities, but deep down, you do not believe that. Regardless, the path to the break room is now open. After entering, to your surprise, you find a mannequin resting in the exact armchair you had been in. Something is wrong. This doesn't make sense. You decide to forget about the coffee and head back, only to find a long trail of blood leading out of the office. You begin following it, only to find a locked door. This is going too far. You have to get out of here, except the exit door is locked. You need a keycard to leave. Panicked, you hastily make your way through the building, finding even more blood. You then notice that you are being stared at by a room filled with mannequins, but as soon as you walk by the door, they are all gone. Then you see it. A dark figure staring at you from another room, and just as quickly as it arrived, it was gone. Picking up the pace, you think you know exactly where a keycard should be. Eventually, you collect a portal gun, which you find comforting to have, except that comfort will be short-lived, as a nearby door would be forcefully opened where you would then be chased down by a mannequin. Using quick thinking, you manage to use your newfound portal gun and narrowly escape. Finally, after everything, you manage to acquire a keycard. On your way to safety, you see it again. The same dark figure staring at you before disappearing behind a machine. This is almost too much to deal with. Tunnel visioned, you make your way to the first exit door, only to find that it appears damaged, shooting sparks. Perhaps turning off the power will allow you to exit. On your way to the power, impossibly, you are still being stalked by this figure. Turning off the power would prove to be unwanted by whatever creature is lurking in the shadows. It becomes confrontational, appearing right in front of you before phasing out of existence. The mannequins begin chasing you, and just as you finally reach the exit, two dark entities block you from leaving and begin chasing you as well. This is it. You cannot escape. They grab a hold of you, and you wake up. Right back in the break room armchair. It was all just a bad dream. You decide before it's too late you should leave this time around and not delay. As you make your way out of the building, all is as it was before your nap. Feeling relieved, you finally make your way out of the facility and head home. Exhausted from both your long day of work and the nightmare you had minutes ago, you decide to head to sleep. You then begin dreaming, and the walls of your room disappear. You find yourself outside of Aperture Laboratories. You explore the surroundings before finally making your way inside. You find yourself walking through what feels like a looping set of hallways. You finally reach a cylindrical room, where you are then surrounded by mannequins expressionlessly staring at you, blocking the exit. At the other end of the room, you notice a table with a revolver resting on it, and unfortunately, you understand the message. You then pick up the revolver and have no choice but to use it. As the credits roll, you are shown the fates of each of the main characters. Haley Peterson from Part 1 was found deceased. Jerry Ryans from Part 2 was found alongside Tony Gray, both deceased as well. Ted Ross from Part 3 was found to have gone out by his own hand, mirroring the events of his dream. And finally, the remaining employees, Miles Shaw, Maxwell Martins, and Alyssa William, were all reported missing, leaving behind no trace. Now, though this is the end of the main story, there is still a bonus Part 4 as well as something for Halloween. In Part 4, you play as a detective investigating the death of Ted Ross at his residence, before coming into contact with a mannequin he keeps inside of his house. During the investigation, strange occurrences begin happening, like spontaneous combustion, floating objects, and doors being slammed and locked by themselves. The Halloween bonus part in Universe is the company's way of distracting and breaking from the dark aura plaguing the facility after the incident. Overall, Office Prank is an incredibly interesting series of maps, and though it does have limitations, being made for Portal 2, I was pleasantly surprised by how creepy the visuals were despite this. If you are looking for a spooky bunch of maps to check out, I highly recommend looking at these. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I would appreciate it if you considered liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I am nearly at 10k subs, so every subscriber counts. I hope you have an amazing Halloween. Quick thanks to our amazing members for supporting the channel, and another thanks to Anita Cube, Floofy Goober Zach, Funsum, and Yusuf Sami for purchasing the GLoWhNo consumer membership tier.